I have a plan.
You've got a plan.
Yes.
First of all, you're copying me from when I said I had a plan.
No, I'm not. People say that all the time. It's not that unique of a thing to say.
Secondly, I don't even believe you have a plan.
I have part of a plan.
What percentage of a plan do you have?
You don't get to ask questions after the nonsense you pulled on Nowhere.
I just saved Quill.
We've already established that you destroying the ship that I'm on is not saving me.
When did we establish?
Like 3 seconds ago!
No, I wasn't listening. I was thinking of something else.
Oh.
She's right. You don't get an opinion. What percentage?
I don't know. 12%.
12%?
That's a fake laugh.
It's real!
Totally fake.
That is the most real, authentic, hysterical laugh of my entire life because that is not a plan.
It's barely a concept.
You're taking their side?
I am Groot.
So what? It's better than 11%. What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Thank you, Groot. Thank you. See? Groot's the only one of you who has a clue.
Hi everybody and welcome to this Vassals of Kingsgrave spoiler-filled podcast covering Guardians of the Galaxy, the latest movie and maybe also the comics. Joining me today, I have a good posse of vassals and I'm going to ask them all to introduce themselves turn by turn with their forum names. So, Vikram?
Hi, it's been Groot.
What was that?
I don't know. Okay, I'm Fortytwo. I go by as Vikram on the forums thing. No, that's the other way around. Sorry. I'm new to this podcasting thing, getting used to it.
Oh my goodness, you can tell he's been on summer holiday, right? Do you want to go again? Joining me today, let's start with Shane, because he'll know what he's doing. And joining me today is EastTexasDirewolf.
I am Groot.
Also Alias.
I am Zach. And Groot, I guess.
Failed horribly. Okay,
Yeah.
Let's just do normal intros because this is way too stressful.
I like what I did.
Stand by it.
Now everyone's ready.
Yeah, I'm sticking with it.
Okay, fine. And we also have Amber.
I'm Groot. AmberRocks on the forums.
Oh, and we have Arthur Dumner.
I am Groot. Hey, it's Liam at Dumner on the forums.
And I am Bina 007, also known as Groot in some galaxies. Okay, so on to the movie. Should we start off by saying how many Infinity Stones out of 5 we give this movie? And also maybe where you would rank it in the suite of Marvel films. So, Zach, do you want to go first?
Oh boy, ranking it in the Marvel suite. That's the tough part, I think. I'll start off with the Infinity Stones, though. I think I'll give it 4.5 out of 5 of those, even though I don't think you can cut one of those in half without serious issues happening, I suspect. But yeah, it was just a really fun movie for me. I obviously love sci-fi so much, and this was a great, I don't know, just kind of hark back to some old sci-fi movies and just a really fun romp, which was just an awesome thing to see. I did have like small concerns in the middle. I felt like I was losing interest a bit, but the whole movie came together for me when Star-Lord challenged Ronan to a dance party. Or a dance-off, excuse me. That was really what clinched it for me and made me love this movie. So yeah, 4.5. And I guess it's so hard for me. I really like a lot of those Marvel movies, but I'd actually have to give this one number 1 for me of all those.
Wow, strong lads.
Yeah.
Shane, how about you?
I'll give it 4.5 Infinity Gems also. Thought it was really good. Loved the dialogue, the writing of it. Not necessarily the plot, but the dialogue and the character development, character interactions. I liked how all the characters had moments. Some worked better than others, I guess. But, it wasn't all just a one-man show for the main 1 or 2 people. As far as how it ranks in the other Marvel films, I think one of the interesting things about the Marvel films is that they're so different. It's kind of hard to, just straight rank them. Like Captain America 2 is probably my favorite, but it's a totally different kind of movie than this. This definitely ranks very high up there, though.
Amber?
Let's see. So initially, after the first watching, I gave it like 4.85 out of 5 lemon cakes. just because comparing it to Avengers, which has always been my number one favorite, no Tom Hiddleston, so, you know, what can you do? But then after seeing it a second time in IMAX, and just every time I talk to somebody about it, I get even more excited. I went ahead and just bumped it straight up to 6 out of 6 Infinity Gems. And,
are there even 6 Infinity Gems that exist?
Yeah, actually, I guess there's 6 in the gauntlet, so I give it a full gauntlet.
Oh, yeah, there are. Excellent.
Good geek knowledge.
Well, the funny
Shocking
thing,
lack
I
for
also
me.
think it's funny that people who have read the comics, which I have not, always say Infinity Gems, and if you've only seen the movie, it's Infinity Stones. I think that's funny. But out of the whole kind of MCU, I guess I would tie it for number 1 with Avengers.
Okay. Liam?
I give it 4.5 Infinity Stones out of 5. I thought it was better than Avengers. The only real best part of Avengers is when Iron Man's flying over Captain America, blasts his shield, it deflects, hits one of Thanos' guys, he flies up, and you see all the Avengers. That's the best part. But Guardians of the Galaxy, it's so much more. It's so many memorable parts. So it beats Avengers.
Yeah.
This movie even tops the part where Hulk like throws Loki back and forth with the part where Groot throws all the guys against the wall. Like it even beats that. So I agree.
This is true. Oh dear. And Vic?
I would say I would give it like 4 out of 5 mixtapes. I don't know. The movie was kind of overhyped for me. I guess the movie is good by itself, but I guess it was just raised over the top for me with all the hype and expectations. So I was kind of like a bit meh at the end of it. But for me, Thor 2, Iron Man 3 were one of the those were one of my favorite of the Marvel suite, and this movie definitely falls up there. Maybe it's the best of the 3, yeah, for me.
Yeah, no, for me it's definitely, well, I'm not a geek. Well, I haven't read the comics, so I'm going to go out of 5 Infinity Stones, and I will give it a full 5. Maybe because I had no expectations, but I love this movie, and in terms of ranking it with all the other Marvel films, like I really loved Avengers Assemble and Iron Man 2, I think. But yeah, no, I'm gonna say this is the best, just because maybe it's in some weird way it's the least Marvel-y of the Marvel films. It feels a lot to me like watching the A-Team or Indiana Jones, and I would freely admit I'm not as much of a sci-fi fan. So maybe it was that whole kind of gonzo team of misfits going around doing goofy stuff that definitely appealed to me more than all the space stuff. So yeah, I really had a good time watching it. But who here actually has read the comics then, and like how far is it different? Is it Shane, you've read them? Liam, do you know, have you read them?
Okay, I've read a lot of them. This particular version of Guardians of the Galaxy pretty much started in the early 2000s when Marvel sort of rebooted, or not really rebooted, but gave a big push to its cosmic line of characters. And that's when this team started, because the original Guardians of the Galaxy were totally different characters from the future that they started back in the late 60s to early 70s. And they sort of sporadically showed up in the Marvel Universe and had a couple of different series. A pretty popular one that I read a lot of in the 90s. But I didn't read a lot of the sort of the Annihilation comics, which is when they rebooted the cosmic line in the early 2000s. I kind of picked up a comic here and there and just kind of kept an eye on it and kept up with what was going on, but I didn't actually, read all the comics. So.
But does it always have that feel of being something a little bit separate in tone to the other bits of Marvel? Or is that definitely just the movie that's kind of doing its own thing?
Well, the Cosmic Line definitely had its own feel. There were 2 guys whose names I'm blanking on right now. The nickname they had for the writing team was DNA, because one of their names started with D and the other with A. But and they wrote almost all the comics, just the 2 of them. So all that whole Cosmic Line definitely had its own feel and its own style. It was very consistent.
Okay. And did it always have that kind of almost self-mocking, goofy feel?
It was pretty serious a lot of times. I think a lot of that attitude is in the movie is James Gunn's sensibilities. It doesn't contradict what was in the comics, but it's more him than the comics.
Yeah, I read, thanks to FL, I only read the first 10 of the Guardians of the Galaxy book comics, and I think this is the latest iteration. I think I see promotions of Thor 2 in it, so it's probably around that time when this reboot came. And it's definitely kind of there. Like, for example, when Rocket, sorry, no offense. When Rocket kills somebody, he yells, his catchphrase is, I murdered you, I murdered you. I'm surprised they did not have that in the movie. But, stuff like that.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah, but they rewritten a whole lot of stuff. Like, for example, Chris Pratt's parentage, Star-Lord's parentage. That's totally different in the comics.
Oh, really? So he isn't the whole abducted little kid with a Walkman and such a huge part of the comedy of this film.
Like, we do see his dad in the first comic itself, and his dad's the king of the Spartan Empire or something like that, and so that's why he's Star-Lord, because he's the prince. And I don't think his mother's dead in the books.
Still?
Oh yeah, he's half human. I mean,
Yeah, his
they
mother
look
is.
like humans, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's a bit
His mother did
different.
get killed. They kind of retconned that though.
Yeah.
So what's the origin story in the comics then? Like, his mom's just alive, but he was still abducted by the scavenger?
Well, Star-Lord is, all these characters are really old. Most of them come from the 60s or 70s, but they were sort of in their own little corners of the Marvel Universe, and they sort of brought them together into this comic and just pulled some. I guess it seemed to me like the guys that wrote it just sort of picked some weird characters they liked and threw them together in a team. But Star-Lord, he was. I don't know if they've actually changed his age, but for most of his history, he's been kind of an older guy. Like he grew up on Earth and he joined NASA and went into space because he did have, like, his mom, I think, did meet an alien and got knocked up, and that's how. Yeah, but he actually joined NASA and went to space, and he was much older, kind of like, I want to say like in his 40s for most of his history.
So is there any corner of like the comic book reading world that's kind of pissed off at all the changes, as we see in our like Game of Thrones adaptation table flipping moments? I mean, or are people pretty cool with it because it just works so well and it's so fun?
Not that I know of. The characters are pretty. I mean, they're not very popular characters before they were put in the Guardians of the Galaxy, so they don't really have a big fan base.
Yeah, somebody said this is Marvel scraping the bottom of the barrel for characters.
It was really funny because, like, for months before this came out, I was getting all this like publicity and PR stuff, and I was like, who? If it weren't for the Marvel name, I was just like, who the hell are these people, and why would I care? And I didn't even really know who Chris Pratt was because I've never really seen Parks and Recreation, and yeah, so it did seem to come a little bit out of nowhere. But it just shows you how astute Marvel are, I guess, as a marketing machine.
I mean, how this movie came together is pretty interesting. I mean, this is I heard from another podcast, but one of the writers on this, or the main writer actually, who wrote the script initially is Nicole Perlman, and she's not actually, this is like her first big time movie, and she's a writer on the Marvel staff. It's called the Writers Program or something, and they do these Blue World kind of stuff, like, okay, just pick up any property and just write a movie script on it, and she could pick anything, and she picked Guardians of the Galaxy because she thought that she would have more freedom here. There's no continuity or anything, and she could write these characters however she could. And she wrote it, and people liked it. They brought in James Gunn, who probably rewrote a whole bunch of things again. But yeah, that's how it came together. It was just,
That's pretty amazing.
Also in the comics, which kind of speaks to Marvel's synergy and how they got their shit together basically with the comics and the movies. A couple of years ago, this team, they really started changing the Guardians in the comics to what this movie is, I assume, when they started pre-production and figured out what they were doing, because there were other Marvel characters that were in the Guardians of the Galaxy that eventually kind of got dropped, and these five are the ones that they focused on in the comics.
Yeah, Marvel really does seem to know how to get every single... I guess they're kind of like what Disney was back in the day, when Disney was really efficient at just making everything streamline into itself and just all the reinforcement of the marketing. And I don't know, I really respect it and admire it, even though I'm a bit of a sucker for it as well. It's pretty cool. So while we're in the whole sort of wider Marvel thing, who put Shane does Ronan work? And if he does, why doesn't Malekith in the show?
Just one phrase. Necropilots, begin the immolation sequence.
Oh, so Shane, this is you asking other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because I was wondering, the main thing for me, is it just the eyes, because they didn't go opaque with the eyes? Because I thought Ronan totally worked. I mean, Lee Pace is a good actor, but he was still under a ton of makeup and more or less unrecognizable. The same way, what's his name? Mr. Doctor Who, Eccleston was as Malekith in Thor 2. But I thought Ronan totally worked in this movie more than the way Malekith didn't in Thor 2.
Well, I think Ronan's maybe a bit more charismatic as a character, or maybe Lee Pace is more charismatic than Eccleston. He just looks a bit more dour and.
It seemed like they gave him more to do. Like they built Malekith up as this big bad, but then he didn't really do anything. Whereas in this, they kind of, instead of telling you so much, they just show you that this guy's kind of a badass. So you take him a little more seriously, maybe?
For me, it was really the confrontations with Drax that really made Ronan interesting as a villain to me. And Drax himself was kind of like the thing that really pulled this movie together for me, because he was kind of the guy you were rooting for, who had actual motivations and a stake in this, as opposed to the other ones that were kind of along for the ride. Yeah, the heart, I would say. And like just the parts where Ronan's saying things like, I won't remember killing you, I didn't remember killing your family, like that just makes you like want to get this guy taken care of. I didn't see Thor 2, but I think that's what maybe was missing there, the kind of personal hate that you have for that villain. Maybe.
I wonder if it's maybe something as technical as Lee Pace, having done Thranduil, being more used to acting under makeup, and how you have to be really theatrical just to get anything through, in a way. Because Christopher Eccleston, when I think of him in Thor 2, I always think of his face as strangely immobile. Like maybe he was doing something too thespian and too sort of subtle to actually make it through and to match up to a character of that magnitude, right?
It's funny. It's like it seems to be this Lee Pace stereotypical character. This is the same character he played in, kind of the same character he plays in the Hobbit movies, and also funnily even in *Halt and Catch Fire*. Also, he plays this very cold, reserved, sharkish person, an asshole kind of guy. So it's like his standard role everywhere.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm going to change my favorite movie for the favorite movie podcast. I'm going to have a movie called The Fall, which Lee Pace is in, and it's a completely opposite movie. It's a movie that will make you cry. So,
is that his real body? I mean, everybody's going on about the Chris Pratt abs, but I mean, when he's coming up out of the water, does he look like that? Because that was impressive.
No, I think that's CG there.
He's quite
meaty
in real life, isn't he?
He's really tall, I think. I don't know if he's as tall as they made him in this.
He's like 6 foot, I think, maybe.
Well, if you want to see him almost nude, you can see *Halt and Catch Fire*. I mean, this is AMC level nudity there, so but yeah, he's buff, but that was over the top in the movie, so I think there was something else going on there.
No, but
well, did everyone think he worked the way I did in this movie?
Yeah. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wonder if.
Go ahead, Zach.
I was just going to say, I think that what did it for me was his kind of confrontations with Drax. I think that's what made him interesting for me.
Well, I wonder also if a religious zealot who's sort of raging a holy war is more relatable, unfortunately, in our real world than someone that just wants to destroy the universe for no apparent reason.
Yeah, maybe. God, that's scary.
For me,
were any of you surprised?
For me, the best villain in the Marvel universe is definitely Loki, and definitely a Loki type character wouldn't have worked here. This movie called for a more stereotypical villain, right? I mean, even if the villain was kind of funny, wisecracking, then the entire movie wouldn't have a foundation to stand on.
The problem is if you want to have any heart to the movie, like if you want to seriously love Drax, you've got to seriously hate the villain. So you can't have a jokey villain. I think the other problem with the Loki type villain here, and probably even in Thor, is it totally unbalances the film because he steals the show. And in a movie that's already an ensemble, I mean, I know Chris Pratt's character is kind of the main one, but really this is like an 18 type movie. You can't have a larger than life villain because it would totally tip it out of kilter, I think. So I think it's really cleverly done. And also because like there's him, he's a villain, but then you've also got Yondu as well, who's kind of a villain. So even on the villain side of the piece, you've got a couple of people, the 2 daughters who maybe are, maybe aren't, and there's all sorts of stuff going on.
Yondu was just perfect. I mean, I did not see this character coming at all, and I don't know anything about this character from the comics. But having Michael Rooker there, I mean, he brought in his Walking Dead character over here. And it's just perfect. I mean, yeah, it's just loud in there.
The part where he kills all the guys in the field, like, I didn't know why that part was in it, but it still just was so awesome. Like, it was cool seeing that guy do stuff.
Well,
Yeah, I
nice
like Yondu.
to
He's
get
one
the
of the.
show, you know. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say Yondu. Go ahead.
They kept, he kept pulling back his coat and showing his arrow, and it was cool to actually finally get the payoff of, okay, he thinks he's really badass. What's he actually going to do with this thing? And it was pretty badass.
That's true.
Yeah, he's one of the characters that's changed the most from the comics, but I didn't mind. He's a member of the original Guardians of the Galaxy, that other team from the 60s and 70s, and he's got a big red fin like a fish on his back, and they sort of kind of alluded to that with the red middle piece. And his people, they're real like Native American type people, his alien race, but what they've learned to do is they shoot bows and arrows, but the metal is sort of acoustically affected, and they can whistle, and like they can shoot an arrow and not necessarily move it the way Yondu did in this movie, like it's telekinesis, but they can sort of steer it and veer it as it's in flight, which was a pretty cool homage in this movie with the way he did his arrow. But I liked it.
Nice. I was surprised by him because I don't watch Walking Dead, so I didn't know who he was, and he was just awesome and really charismatic. But the person who surprised me most as an actor, I guess, is it Dave Bautista as Drax? Because he could have just been the classic kind of muscly doofus, but he had real heart and like real comic timing, like when he's being all deadpan and everyone like totally serious, like the straight man, which is often the hardest comic role to play. I was really impressed with that. And just what I realized I loved him was that final kind of pre-credit sequence where you've got the dancing baby Groot and like he's turning around to try and that was so cute on so many levels. But I just thought actually the two characters I care more in this, most about in this, are Drax and Groot, even though Rocket was the funniest and Star-Lord was obviously charming. So I don't know if he's done any acting before, but he was awesome.
Yeah, Drax was definitely one of my favorites, and I didn't expect that because he just seemed like, there's all these cool characters, and then there's this muscle guy. But I think his whole, when they're talking and he says, "Oh, sorry, I was thinking of something else." I think that was my favorite line from the whole movie. Like, I laughed so hard.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too good.
And my God, whoever did the makeup with all the design on his body, that was amazing. I hate to think how long that took every day. It was really Hellboy. It just reminded me of something of Guillermo del Toro movies. It's beautiful. I don't know. Maybe do you want to just go through the movie kind of like sort of section by section and just talk about cool stuff and stuff maybe that didn't quite work?
No, that sounds like a good going over the plot, I guess. I mean, I guess the plot is pretty generic, right? I mean, he has a MacGuffin, everybody wants it, everybody needs it, and it's a big bag destroy. For me, what worked was finally somebody explained to me what the deal with the Infinity Gems were. I mean, he had references like.
Tell me, what is the deal with the Infinity Gems?
Well, it's 6 of them, right? So this one, I think, is the Gem of Power. There's the Gem of Soul. There's a Gem of Reality. I don't know. There are a bunch like that.
Oh my God! It just sounds so much
like
George
time and mind as well.
Nonsense, doesn't it? Like the Hour of the Owl. The Hour of the... What does any of this mean?
Yeah, and he does. The collector tries to explain that a bit, right? I mean, they said there was a nebula and it was split up into these 6 gems or something, and then spread out. And anybody who wields all 6 of them has like godlike powers, and that's what Thanos is trying to do. He isn't just going for one of these gems; he's trying to get all 6 of them so that he can forge a gauntlet eventually and go against the Avengers, I guess. Or something like that. I don't know. You need a very big team to go after Thanos, I think.
Jeez. Okay.
So that's what we're building toward, right? The whole like Marvel universe is building toward this whole thing because we have like the Tesseract, which is one of them in the Avengers stuff, and that's kind of we're all building toward this whole Infinity Gem Thanos confrontation thing.
Oh, okay. I feel really stupid.
Yeah, there is more than Thanos.
Like, who else is on the side of bad then with Thanos? Loki, I guess. No.
Galactus and things like that. I mean, we're talking about Titans now, I think.
Galactus.
Oh, okay.
Well, Galactus and all the sort of Titan-type cosmic characters went against Thanos after he got it because he was a threat to them in the comic books. But he whipped all their asses.
Wow.
Well, and wasn't the Collector also trying to get all of them because, they brought him the Tesseract and then he was trying to get more. He was going after the purple one. So what's he going to do with them? Is that anything from the comics that the Collector would be after them?
I think we know the location of 3 gems so far. The Tesseract is still in Odin, with Odin, whatever the place is. I forgot. Valhalla? No.
The Ether?
Crap, I forgot Thor's hometown from. What's Thor's planet?
His hometown.
Asgard.
Asgard, okay. So the Tesseract is in Asgard. Then at the end of the second Thor movie, we see Thor's friends bring over one of the gems over, the one that Malekith was after, over to Collector to keep it. And they say, I think this was the after credit scene, and he says, hey, we can't have 2 Infinity Gems in one location, so we'll give it to you. So the Collector should have just shouldn't have tried to get this other one, but he wanted to have 2 gems, I guess. So we know 3, so 3 others are missing.
Ending, in that after credit sequence, didn't he say, like 1 down, 5 to go, or something along those lines to imply that he was trying to gather more? I thought.
Yeah, they're items that give you great power. So in the comics, all the powerful, cosmic beings and players have always wanted them. Yeah, and Thanos is the only one that's ever been able to put them all actually gather them all together. There was a comic book called Thanos Quest, which was actually pretty good, that showed Thanos actually going around, because a lot of times people don't understand what they are or know what they have. And Thanos was the one that figured out what they were and what you could do with them and how you could be basically omnipotent if you put them together. And in that Thanos Quest comic book, he went around all these people and basically took them or outplayed them or outsmarted them and gathered them all together. I think the Collector had one at one time, but he was in the comic. Then he got it from him. So they just pulled that from the comic.
Okay, but if you did not know anything about this franchise before you watched the movie, I don't know if anyone else was in that position. And I watch a lot. I don't kind of class myself as being completely dumb, but for the first 20 minutes, I had no idea what was going on, because you had this prologue sequence with the mum who's dying, which was really schmaltzy. And I was like, this sucks. And then you had this whole thing with Ronan and some random stuff, and there was all these kind of names, and I didn't know where anything was, and such was in war with such and such and in conflict with them, and it was just, I found it actually really hard to follow, because I saw it ages ago. I read through the wiki plot, the Wikipedia, a plot summary on Wikipedia, and I was still I kind of know what happened in this movie, which is there's a MacGuffin, they get it, they break out of prison, they go against the big bad, and they kind of have a dance off, and then they win. Awesome. I was reading the plot and I was still completely confused. So is that just me, or was anyone else
definitely not. I felt the same way for sure. I don't know. The thing for this movie for me is not, I don't really think it's about the plot. I think it's more the characters, the fun and the interactions and the 70s music for the most part. It really makes the movie.
70s music, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was good though. But yeah, my biggest complaint would definitely be that I think there were a lot of moments that felt either too hard to follow or just didn't need to be there. I even felt like the confrontation or the moment with Thanos in the movie was completely pointless in the movie. I know they had to do it because they teased him in the Avengers and he's the big bad, but I don't know. There were a lot of scenes like that I didn't think were necessary.
Yeah, but see, the movie itself. That's another good thing about these Marvel's films, is that they please so many different people. I love that scene because as a comic book geek. Yeah. So, and if they can make a film that has these things, it's for all the different people, and as a whole, more or less works for everybody. And then you have you're rolling in the money like Marvel's doing now.
Absolutely. So if everyone on the spectrum from shame to me, from knowing stuff to ignorance is happy, then I guess they're doing well. But you did feel it a little bit in the pacing, I think, between the big set pieces, maybe.
No, I would have been very. I was going to say I would have been very disappointed if we didn't get any Thanos at all, because I thought Thanos was going to be the villain in the next Avengers movie, but it's going to be Ultron instead. So if they delayed Thanos' introduction for a couple more movies, it would have been a bit long for me.
Well, if Tina has to get 6 of these thingy jobs, and then we're going to be 2025 before you see the confrontation.
Exactly, it's going to be a long time. So each movie is going to deal with one gem.
Marvel did reveal that they have movie plans out for I think 2027.
That does not
Assuming-
surprise me.
Oh yeah, let me get that roadmap.
What are they gonna do with all the Avengers actors? They're all gonna be like in their 60s, hobbling around.
This is
Friggin' new ones.
Even more grown up than Maisie and Sophie.
Maybe plastic surgery will have advanced sufficiently by then. Okay, anyway, so back to the prologue. Back to the prologue. We didn't even get to the prologue. The abduction of Peter Quill and the mom and the schmaltziness. That's tongue-in-cheek, right? Because at that point, not knowing what was coming later, I was like, this movie sucks. And I was like, well, maybe it's deliberately sucky in retrospect. Like, they were trying to, like, have this... Or do you think they were really trying to tug on our heartstrings?
Oh, I actually fell for it. I was really sorry for the poor kid who lost his mom.
I totally cried.
I agree. I thought it worked pretty good. I thought it was, more or less sincere.
It was
I thought it was kind of a...
I feel heartless now.
No, I'm with you, Bina. I was bored. I was ready for this sci-fi to start.
And I know I'm not heartless because when because I hadn't read the movie, so when Groot died, I was a little dusty in the theater. I was really upset, and then like when Dancing Baby Groot came back, I was so happy. But yeah, the prologue, I was like, Jesus, this is the cheesiest, most manipulative. This is like a Hallmark afternoon movie. This thing.
I guess I was spoiled with the Groot part because from the comics I knew that Groot was going to regenerate. And I think they gave us a hint when Groot regenerated his arms, right? So something like that. So I was spoiled for that. So I didn't. And then I was like, yeah, he's going to come back. All you need is some soil and water.
Yeah, but doesn't like Rocket, like when he's like growing bigger to protect them, go like, oh, he's not going to make it. He's not going to survive or something. I mean, there is a misdirect. And then Rocket's all upset, and you're like, oh no, he's dead.
I suspected he would live, but I still felt the moment. I don't know. It still worked really well for me, just him sacrificing himself. And I think there is still kind of like a sacrifice there, despite him not actually dying.
Oh, definitely, because it's not without pain. So does the Choose Your Walkman exist in the comics?
No.
I totally predict that when the sort of whole beard craze is over, Kyle, I'm looking at you, that hipsters who buy like 80s vintage retro high top sneakers will also start getting 80s Walkmans with orange earpieces. That's going to be the next thing.
Yeah, it's going to be cyclic. Then it's going to go to iPods again.
No, I like that. I think that I even factored in the movie itself. I don't know. Just it's one of the things I like about this kind of sci-fi, where you have the older stuff mixing with the really like new out there kind of stuff, where he has like the player in his ship. I don't know. It was just a cool thing for me.
Yeah, when you realize he has the deck built in to the headboard, that's pretty cool.
I was just gonna say, I assumed he had some kind of alien technology to preserve that tape, so it didn't.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah,
it would have fallen apart years ago.
How many times has he sellotaped that back together again? But like cassette tapes were a lot more reliable than everyone thought. Like CDs were meant to last forever, and that's clearly bullshit. So, anyway, on to Act 1 of the movie, which is basically I put Quill nicks the orb, Indiana Jones, anybody. And Gamora is dispatched by the big bad. This is also in the scene. I didn't really know what was going on, but I just love that like clear not Return of the Jedi. What am I talking about? Raiders of the Lost Ark scene where he's going through all the kind of obstacles with his like mixtape and getting the orb. That made me happy.
Yeah, I was like, there's going to be a booby trap. There's going to be a booby trap or something like that. Shouldn't you replace it with an equivalent weight or something like that?
Where are the Nazis? Where are the Nazis?
Instead, we got space terrorist, appropriate for the time.
Indeed. But what's the deal with that whole like that mask he has, that magic mask? And isn't it just like really cheesy that he could give it to Gamora and save her life? Like, I thought that was kind of built into his head somehow until that happened.
Yeah, all the space stuff was like surprising. I mean, he can breathe in space. I mean, shouldn't that vacuum thing happen where your guts get sucked out or something like that?
Well, I've read that it takes a little bit longer than most movies have shown it. So, and I don't know if what I read was true or not, so I'm not sure who's right about whether, you can survive a few minutes in the vacuum or whether you just instantly implode or whatever. I'm not sure what the real answer is, but he was out there for a while.
Yeah. Okay. And then we get introduced to Ronan, who works for Thanos. How does that work?
Oh, it was only a temporary thing, I guess. I mean, I guess Thanos was supporting him by sending him his 2 daughters. Okay, now the daughters thing makes sense to me because I was like, how's Gamora, Thanos' daughter, but no, it's like an adopted foster daughter thing going on there. I think he was only working for Thanos to supply him a gem, and he could destroy the planet for him or something.
Okay, so they're not really related in any way, shape, or form, because that wasn't clear to me.
No.
Yeah, I love the
I have a
idea
question.
that he just goes around to different planets and, picks up the hot chicks and then trains them and turns them into his, mechanized weapons. It's a pretty badass army.
Yes, she in one of her interviews, Zoe Saldana said it's kind of like those kid warriors or something who get kidnapped from their villages in Africa, stuff like that, in Sudan and things like that, and get forced to fight in the civil wars. It's kind of something like that.
Yeah, it's really messed up. It's very sad.
So is there a specific reason?
Come back and get him. Sorry.
I was just going to ask, is there a specific reason why Gamora was so willing to switch sides and was so against? And obviously she has no love for her father, for Ronan, but it seemed like there was kind of a thing there where she was loyal in the past. I don't know why this was the point where she broke off. I was kind of confused about that.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the movie's weaker points. They didn't really give a motivation for her turning.
Yeah.
Well, and I also thought it was pretty funny that she walks around the prison telling everybody that she's betrayed her father and Ronan now. It's like, you don't want to keep that a little secret for a little while longer?
But she seems to be a little bit like Drax. She's almost like lacking in subterfuge and irony. I think she just has a moral conscience, and even though raised by an evil big bad, somehow could perceive this was not going the right way and switched.
Well, the implication, I think, is that she's been loyal for a while and therefore has probably done pretty heinous things in the past. That's the impression I got, at least.
But she doesn't, as a character, the way Zoe Saldana plays her, that's not convincing to me then, because she comes across as very pure and uncorrupt and decent. She doesn't come across as someone who's been scarred by bad shit and then is reforming themselves but haunted by the evil that they've committed in the past at all.
I agree with you, and that was a point of confusion for me, because it doesn't really make sense that she would even be a loyal servant of Ronan if she's like that.
Maybe she always secretly wanted to escape, but that was her chance or something. Unclear though. Okay, and then sort of like in the next act of the movie, we get a Xandar, which was by far my least favorite environment because it was too shiny and new. And basically, Gamora chases Quill, and they end up in prison, and they meet the rest of the A-Team, and they bust out, which I think was just the best part of the whole movie, frankly. Because it's when you see Groot being so cool, like, I'll just grow up and grab that thing. And
yeah, that's so funny.
like the visual, it's almost like a sort of 1920s kind of black and white slapstick humor. Like, it's so visual, like they're going to do the smart alecky plan, and meanwhile behind them, Groot's just climbing up and grabbing the thing. And, I didn't watch it at a cinema which had kids in, but I bet kids would really respond to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, that was pretty funny scene. Yeah, the entire prison stuff.
I think Rocket really comes into his own here. Although he's pretty funny from the beginning.
It took me a while to realize it was Brad Cooper, actually.
Yeah, he does an accent. It's not his normal talking.
He said he modeled it on Joe Pesci in Goodfellas.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah, I heard that, yeah.
It just makes me happy. So what's the story with Rocket in the comics? Is it what it is here, that he's the sort of GMO raccoon? Because obviously if you want to genetically manipulate something, you pick a raccoon.
Yeah, in the comics, he's one of those characters that his origin's kind of wonky. I did see a comic, I think it was his first appearance, where he came from a planet of animals, whatever that word is, anthropomorphic animals that walked and talked. I don't think he has quite the angst that he has in the movie.
Because he was on the way of Cobra, couldn't he? I mean, when he makes his little speech in the movie, he's like, yeah, humans, this is humans, what they've done to me. And you just think, oh my word.
Well, it never even said it was humans. We don't even, I assume it wasn't, because they don't.
Oh, that's true, actually.
Not in the stars. It doesn't say. Yeah, I've never read anything in his past that explains anything about cybernetic enhancements. I don't know if that was in the comics or if they retconned it and put it in or not.
But he's very much, to me, he's the Hannibal from A-Team character. Oh, there. And then we get to Tivan Benicio del Toro. Hilarious. This to me seemed like a character out of the Hunger Games with all like the hair and eyebrows and stuff. Like the version of every trinket. It kind of brought me out of the movie a little bit because it was just so outlandish. And I know I'm saying that in reference to a talking raccoon and an ent, but still.
Wait, the pink ladies were fine, but the bad hairstyle brought you out of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, pink ladies and green ladies, that's normal. Yeah, that's all.
There was something about the white eyebrows and the cuffs on his shirt and the kind of I don't know, teeth. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it just felt like something out of Hunger Games.
I think they definitely made a wise choice with getting Benicio del Toro because he just took it and ran with it 100%. And I actually thought he was more acceptable than the pink ladies, but he just makes you believe him. Like, he just takes it so seriously that it was like, okay.
Yeah.
Dude and his weird hand gestures, he's totally legit.
And then we get, this is the cool bit where Drax summons Ronan and gets beat.
Gets impatient.
It's hilarious.
Well, before this happens, did sort of the more emotional beats, did they work for y'all? Like when they get drunk and Rocket has his Oscar reel and Drax has his Oscar reel?
I didn't like that part, to be honest. I was kind of losing interest at this point before Ronan shows up, where they're meeting the Collector. I don't know. It felt off. I can't really pinpoint a reason.
It was very tropey, but the one thing that really did bother me was that he's talking about 400 billion or however much money,
units.
And he's saying this in front of all these like kind of low life people you would think who are gambling. I was like, wouldn't you want to,
like make like Han Solo and be a bit stealth.
Yeah.
I thought it wasn't great, but I appreciate that they give the characters some depth, and I think the movie, it wasn't just all just slapstick comedy, that they sort of made these characters have some kind of three dimensions.
Absolutely. And that, to me, was the biggest shock, that, this GMO raccoon and this ant and this bodybuilder, and I genuinely cared what happened to each and every one of them.
No, it kind of, in a weird way, it all made sense to me because, I watch a lot of animes, and animes, the protagonists, like Naruto's and stuff like that, they're all, like, got exceptional talent and everything, but they're all dumbasses, they're all idiots. And everybody's like that in a funny way. When the Rocket's a genius, he's an idiot too. And Drax and Groot and Star-Lord himself also pissing off, getting a bounty on his head. Same thing with Gamora. So it all works. They're all very talented individuals, each got their own specializations, but they don't have like the smarts in some ways.
Yeah, they definitely all have like a bit of naivete or just kind of like this innocence.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so then we have the whole Drax and Ronan scene, which is heartbreaking, and then Quill saves Gamora. So there's a lot of emotional stuff going on here, and then they agree to bring the orb from Ronan to Yondu. So they sort of cut a deal, and Yondu is just awesome, obviously. And then I guess we get to the big sort of final showdown, where we get the creation of the souped-up Warhammer, which seemed a bit Thor-esque. Is that in the comics? The kind of, if you put the stone in the Warhammer and it becomes crazy balls powerful.
It's never been done like that.
But it's kind of like a gauntlet, right? Where it kind of allows you to wield the power a little more easily.
Yeah, and in the flashback, they showed this big giant guy, probably a Titan, had the same gem on a staff, right? And then he pummeled it on the planet, and the planet just got destroyed.
Yeah.
I had a question going back a hair to the fight between Drax and Ronan. When he dumps him in that vat of yellow goo, are we supposed to assume that maybe gives him some sort of powers or anything, or is it just yellow goo?
Could be. It's stuff from ex-Titan, right? So it could have vitamins and stuff in it.
I thought it was just yellow goo and he was drowning in it.
I expected him to become radioactive, but they didn't really. He just kind of fished him out, and that was it.
Superhero serum, a bit of gamma ray in it. Drax angry. Maybe it's the reverse effect. When Drax gets angry, he gets into a pesky guy.
Oh my word.
Yeah, in the movie, I don't guess he really has any superpowers apart from being, just a badass. He does have powers in the comics, and he has a completely different origin, but they went a different way.
Well, do any of them really have superpowers in this? I wouldn't classify any of them as like superpowers. Maybe like certain mutations.
I would say, like Rocket's just smart, right? But I would say that Groot has superpowers as far as the regenerating stuff is.
I think even Gamora can eat pretty quickly or something. In the comics, they kind of hype Gamora a lot. They kind of say, "Oh, she's the most dangerous woman in the galaxy" and things like that. But none of that in the movies.
Yeah, it's all fairly understated, I think, the powers in this.
Is Star-Lord gonna get powers like in the comics?
No, he has a fancy gun that does stuff. You know.
Oh, okay, but it's not like okay, fine.
I think that was all just that because he was half whatever his father is, that gave him some sort of inner strength. So I wonder if that will manifest in some other way.
Well, we see it, I think, in him surviving the vacuum in space and the Infinity Gem, though they obviously are also saved by the power of friendship. But I think that him being not fully human also factors into him not immediately burning to a crisp there.
Yeah.
The power of love must have come after 1988 or something, or maybe they would use that.
It's the power of lust, wasn't it, between Cora? But you know, all cynicism aside, I think it's an important point that they don't have too many superpowers because it should be them kind of MacGyvering their way with kind of stupid contraptions because it's about the power of friendship and the team being stronger than the one superhero. And it's
kind of sorry.
No, and I was just going to say that what I really like about when the Nova Corps sort of Air Force, I guess, is trying to protect the planet against the attack, and all these tiny little kind of starships, the way they protected us by sort of all flying into formations and then creating a shield, even though they look very inconsequential. So there's a really nice kind of teamwork ethic at Nova Corps as well, which giant.
Yeah, in a way, I enjoyed it more, all those neat little gadgets and tricks of what's going to come out next. Because this universe is totally new, right? In Star Wars, we know a lightsaber, a death cannon, a Death Star, and stuff like that. There's no gadgets in Star Wars like that. But here we got all sorts of these neat tricks and gimmicks.
And to your point, Bina, it's kind of an interesting counterpoint, the Guardians, with the Avengers, who all of them actually have powers except for Tony Stark, who has this awesome suit. So it's kind of an interesting mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of like that. It's not as narcissistic. It's not as, I don't know. They kind of have to work at it and they will make mistakes and they can be goofy. That's why I love this movie. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
The Hulk doesn't have powers. He's a problem.
Hulk smash.
Apparently not all the time.
That was hilarious.
Whenever he wants to, he can just beat up bad guys and not beat up good guys.
Yeah, I have something to talk about that in the after show.
Okay. Anyway, then we get to the scene where Groot dies protecting the crew after Rocket crashes his ship into the enemy. Oh, I actually thought the CGI in the scene was really good as well. Like the way Groot grows into the protective canopy was just beautifully done. And I did get a little teary, I must say. Does he do stuff like that in the comics, Shane?
Yeah, in the comics, it's kind of a gag. And like at the end of the big fights, he'll always get blown up and have to grow back. So I think the comic book readers all knew he wasn't really dead.
I kind of find that quite sad in a way. It's like it kind of devalues it. It becomes a bit sort of a who killed Kenny from South Park moment.
Yeah, I think
you can say that about all the superhero comics, though, I think. Kind of devalues the death all the time.
Well, I'm getting that way with Song of Ice and Fire, where everyone's not really dead and just comes slightly more retarded, you know.
That's Martin's comic background coming in there. Though he says he doesn't like that, so I don't know.
He does a lot for a man. He doesn't like it. Maybe John will really be dead, and then I'll be happy. Okay, and then we're into the sort of I'll put epilogue here. The final scene where. Did anyone else get really, I suppose if you've read the comics, like when you realize that Quill really is a Star-Lord, I was like, yes! And the crew becomes the Guardians of the Galaxy. They get their criminal records expunged. And we get Dancing Baby Groot. So it all ends happily, right? All good.
Wait, and nobody was curious why Groot stopped dancing when Drax looked at him. Is there something going on between Drax and Groot?
Because he's awesome and mischievous.
He's fucking with him.
Yeah, I was just grinning ear to ear that whole time. That was so good.
It made me really happy. And then, did you guys stay for the post-credit sequence? Because apparently I didn't, because I didn't know it was happening in the one I saw. But some of my friends did stay, and they didn't show it at the screening I attended. So I don't know if it's a US versus rest of the world thing.
No, I did stay behind.
Preview, but
You're lucky. You're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it for me. I was expecting like the trailer for the Age of Ultron or something like that. No, instead we got like a Howard the Duck thing.
Well, see, though, it totally fits with this movie, though. All the goofiness of it. Yeah, you don't get a tease for the next movie, but I think it worked.
But is Howard the Duck? He's not Marvel, is he?
Yeah, he is.
Really? Are they going to have a Howard the Duck movie? Because he was voiced by Seth Green, who's like a proper actor. So, are we?
Who knows? I mean, the way Marvel's going, I kind of doubt it, but it's possible.
I read something with James Gunn where he was kind of just alluding to the fact that, it was just for fun, we're just enjoying ourselves, don't put too much weight into it. But some of the people at the theater I was at the first night loved it. They were just howling. And I just thought it was all in good fun.
Yeah, I didn't feel it personally, but my theater loved it, and I think it's one of those things where people that know what's going on are going to love it, and everyone else is going to be disappointed. They expect more out of the post credits.
I mean, didn't Howard the Duck kill a studio at the time? I mean, that was a massive bomb, wasn't it? I would be careful about, that's like the Heaven's Gate of comic book movies.
Whose fault was that? Was that George Lucas's fault, though?
That guy's like...
I suspect.
He's like kryptonite to good movie making. He really is. All right, so random stuff. Chris Pratt as action hero. The boy does look buff. Sensible casting choice there, because he really did the comedy, and I think the comedy's the heart of the film, right? But yeah, who knew?
Yeah, what a year it's been for him. First the Lego movie, now this. I mean, he's on a great ride.
Yeah, from Parks and Rec to helming the two biggest grossing movies of the summer.
And I heard that in Parks and Rec he was actually an extra cast. He was supposed to be this bad boyfriend character, just show up there just for a couple of episodes and gone. But people liked him so much that they brought him back and he's a regular on it. So it's all so, fairy tale like.
Is he like the smallest sort of recognition actor that Marvel's ever used to helm a movie? Maybe Liam Hemsworth when they did Thor, but I mean, it seems to me like a really ballsy move on their part.
Chris Hemsworth.
Sorry, Chris Hemsworth. Oh, Hemsworth. So many Australian actors. Ugh.
They really did nail it, though. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that's another thing Marvel does really good is the casting. They seem to really know what they're doing, I should say.
Well, and they hired fat Chris Pratt, right?
So Chris Pratt. Excellent casting. Any kind of view on the whole special effects 3D versus standard debate? I mean, it felt to me like this movie had a kind of consciously lo-fi kind of approach to special effects. It was all kind of like in-screen makeup, and there were the big CGI scenes, but they just decided to go for a much more sort of Hellboy style world that felt a bit more. Is tactile the right word?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I love.
I think one of the things I liked about the Milano, I'm a spaceship kind of guy. I mean, I've got books, plural, on my shelf of Star Wars books and blueprints and schematics. And I really I like the Milano and the way it was, even like just the layout of it, the way the ladder went up into the cockpit. It just looked authentic to me. If spaceships were real.
How have we not had a Podcast Advice and 5 and poll on the best spaceship ever? We had the best.
Let's do that.
Let's make that happen, Shane. Let's make that happen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Firefly, hands down. Yeah, no competition.
That's a great one too.
But it could be such a cool forum thread, and you'd be debating what makes the best spacecraft. Is it comfort? Is it gadgets? Is it speed? Is it stealth?
The thing about the Milano that kind of disappointed me towards the end was that there were a bunch more of them that looked the same, because the Ravagers or something, that's their standard ship of choice, right? So, or is the Milano unique?
Yeah, but it was so cool.
So it was kind of like, oh, it's a TIE fighter. Right?
Yeah, but just because there's thousands of Aston Martin DB7s in the world doesn't mean that I wouldn't personally want one, and it wouldn't be cool if I had one.
I see what Vic's saying, though. It's kind of like what they did with C-3PO. They made him not unique, which was disappointing.
Well, they did say that they made some upgrades, right? So maybe in the next movie it'll do some special shit.
Unspecified special shit.
A special. That's the new power.
Oh, so does anyone else have any? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna talk about James Gunn if you like. I mean, that's surprising, right? Marvel's taking surprising risks. I mean, risks on all these new directors. Same thing with, well, I was gonna say Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, but that's not James Gunn. That's not Marvel. That's something else. But James Gunn did not have a big pedigree behind it, right? I mean, I think I saw Super, and it's a nice, cute movie. But I mean, Scooby-Doo, you hired a guy who does Scooby-Doo to do this one? I mean, in what world was that gonna work out? And it did work out.
He did Human Z. Which is like basically the predecessor to Sharknado. I mean, come on.
Captain America 2, those guys were directors on the sitcom Community before that, right?
He also wrote the Dawn of the Dead thing as well, didn't he? I mean, I think that there are various theories about why Marvel hires newbie directors, and one of the theories is that they are easier to persuade to follow the Marvel way of doing things. Because, Marvel has this, 100-year plan of world domination, and they need the movies to have a certain look and to shoehorn certain characters in. And you can't have, a Michael Bay or someone with a massive reputation who wants to do it their way. Whereas these guys, presumably just so grateful to have the budget that they'll take the notes from the studio with good grace, maybe.
Well, it's like what happened with Ant-Man and Joe Wright. I mean, apparently he was a little too big for their britches, I guess.
Absolutely. I think that's completely...
But they do hire people like Josh Whedon, right? Well, Josh Whedon isn't a movie guy, right? So the Avengers was like a big movie break for him too.
He wasn't a movie guy before.
Yeah, and I think Joss Whedon had like a decade, ever since Buffy, had such bad luck with Firefly, and then
that's true, yeah.
With what was his thing with the girls, Dollhouse? So I think at the time they hired, perhaps he was a little bit not down on his luck. Sounds ridiculous, but maybe more amenable, or maybe Joss Whedon, because he'd done kind of script polishes in other Marvel movies, felt that he was enough a part of the Marvel machine, like the insider, who could set the tone for everyone else. So he didn't feel kind of encumbered by the system. He was the system. So it worked in that case, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, he's also a comic book guy. I mean, he's always read comic books, and he wrote his run on the X-Men that was really good several years ago.
Absolutely. So he's kind of like comic books and Shakespeare and everything in between.
So have they said, will James Gunn be... I know they've announced the release date for the second Guardians of the Galaxy. Is he back on board?
He is I'm on IMDb Pro right now, and he's listed as the director and writer of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So, yeah. In fact, he's the only crew listed for that. So, it sounds like he's on board.
All right, everybody, I got to get out of here. But I just want to say, biggest badass, my vote goes to Yondu.
And who's your biggest
dumbass? It might be be the guy that challenged Ronan to a dance-off. Like the biggest dumbass and biggest hero. Sometimes being a hero means you gotta be a dumbass, right?
Awesome.
Hey, it worked. You distracted him.
Absolutely. Okay, latest Shane.
Like the best. Good podcast with y'all. Bye.
Bye, Shane.
Is that a convenient moment to segue into the after show?
I think, yeah.
Unless you'll have other stuff to say about the movie itself. Okay, so to start off with the patented Vassals of Kingsgrove One Night Marry Scorpions game. So maybe this is One Night Marry chucked into a pit of yellow goo. We will run through the cast. So Star-Lord, One Night Marry, or Yellow Goo, boys and girls. And I'll throw it out there. I'll marry him because he's buff and he's sweet and he's funny. And like if you were like dying in space, he'd let you live.
If you were a super hot chick.
Yeah, which obviously in my kind of like intergalactic fantasy life I am. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think I could get more than one night out of him. He seems a little flaky, so that's as high as I can hope for.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of marrying him. I would love to marry Chris Pratt, but his history of kind of being a ladies' man is a little unsavory, I think. So I think I'd stick with one night, maybe a week.
Liam, any opinions?
Oh. Gamora, I'd marry her.
Yeah, but on Star-Lord.
She's a little scary. If I got her on my side, might have some fun, but yeah, Gamora.
What about Star-Lord? One Night Marry or Yellow Goo?
Yellow Goo.
Oh.
Is it no best friend?
No, there's no best friend option. Vic, how about you, Star-Lord?
Yeah, I was exactly like Amber, if it was Chris Pratt from Parks and Recreations or even the Lego movie, I would say Mary, but Chris Pratt and this guy, I would say just one night. He's going to leave you trapped in a spaceship and he's going to do a bunch of stunts in it and it's going to forget your name and stuff.
I think these guys are being harsh, I really do. And he's got he'd make you really sweet mixtapes as well. So we know that Liam would marry Gamora. I would just one night with Gamora because she's so earnest. I mean, she's not a massive amount of fun. I mean, it has to be practically the end of the world before she'll dance. So that's hard work.
Yeah, I think one night. Oh, one night with Gamora and Star-Lord. That would be amazing. But yeah, she just seems like she comes with a lot of baggage.
Agreed.
I mean, Thanos as father-in-law. I mean, can you imagine that?
Yeah, that would be no fun. Yeah, I think one night again is the best I want out of this.
It'd be some wedding, wouldn't it? Vic?
I think I might just pre myself and throw myself into the goo. Well, no, it's Gamora. Come on. I mean, even Iron Man slept with her, so I'm gonna say.
That's so harsh.
Iron Man would sleep with anybody. Iron Man's as bad as Star-Lord.
Yeah. Okay, on to Drax. I would definitely marry Drax. Look at how hot he's like Inigo Montoya when someone kills his family. It's just so lovely. He's also pretty buff. Amber?
I think he's actually a little too buff, but would I marry him? I think he's starting to develop a sense of humor, so I think he's marriage material.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd marry him.
Liam, any opinions on Drax?
Go.
Vikram?
Did Drax remind you guys of Russell Crowe from Gladiator? I mean, it's just like, I'm the father of the murdered son. I wish he gave the Russell Crowe dialogue from Gladiator, I am Maximus, something like that. Well, yeah, no, Drax is really funny, yeah.
Speaking of which I lost 2 hours of my life watching Noah today. My word. That's
So so are you now eager for X-Dose or are you think it's going to be another Noah?
Oh, I mean, it's just yet another lead actor. He takes himself way too seriously, isn't it? So. Anyway, back to Drax.
I would say Maddie for Drax. Yeah.
I'm marrying Drax too. Oh man, love that guy.
Groot, can you even?
We'd build a family together.
How does it work with Groot? Does Groot have girlfriends? Are there little baby saplings? Whoa. I want baby Groot to be my baby.
The Che thing, I don't know. The pass on this one.
The wood lice, it's not an attractive feature.
It's a risk.
She'd have non-stop romantic lighting all the time.
The fireflies, yeah.
And forest fires.
I'm terrible with plants. Every plant I own died. The only plant that I owned that survived at least a year was a cactus. So yeah, probably not.
But maybe he is the plant for you then, Vic, because he can always regenerate.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I kind of wonder, after a while, would you develop Rocket, Lassie and Timmy ability to just be like, oh yeah, Groot, go on, tell me more about it. Whereas, everybody else is just hearing, I am Groot. That might get a little old. Yeah,
no, you definitely have to be in a Han Solo Chewbacca situation. You could marry someone that you just didn't have a friend. Or maybe that's the secret to a happy marriage. Who knows?
Was anybody else surprised with how many... They do it very less, right? I am Groot. I think I can account for 5 times maybe or 6 times maybe where he says I am Groot. Otherwise it's pretty quiet. So I thought they were going to overdo that thing. But I think it's good that they toned it down.
Yeah, they did a lot of silent deadpan humor, but I'm sure it's more than 5 times.
Yeah. I liked the amount they did. My little brother thought it was too many, but I thought it was good.
Yeah. Okay, Ronan. Confusing because Lee paced himself very good looking, but Ronan not so.
Are we just skipping Rocket here? Or is he not?
Oh no! How dare you skip Rocket?
Sorry, that's bad. I will take Rocket or Bradley Cooper. Actually, I won't take Bradley Cooper because isn't he dating a 20-year-old now, which is a bit sleazy.
Oh.
Yeah, but Rocket, I could heal his pain. He's funny, he's resourceful.
I think Rocket's too much for me. I don't know, he seems a little high-strung.
Yeah, I think he'd be up a lot nights drinking. He seems fairly bipolar. Oh, but God, I would hold him so hard for one night. Just cuddle him and pat him.
Oh.
Amber,
I love
that
raccoons.
Amber, that Skype pic of yours, is that your dog?
Yes.
The dog looks very much like a raccoon. So I can
Yes, he's adorable. He's
Yeah,
the most
Robin,
adorable
yeah.
thing.
Liam, any thoughts on Rocket as a potential?
Totally.
Totally. Is that like totally marrying or?
Why not?
Why not? I agree. Okay, now on to Ronan. He's played by the lovely Lee Pace, but doesn't look very lovely here. I mean, I'm saying yellow goo because Jesus Christ, there's no redeeming features.
Yeah.
He's kind of a whiny bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does have a warhammer.
Is that a selling point?
I think that probably doesn't bode well for him in the future.
In a funny way.
Where are all the Victorian fans here? That's a firearm. Come on, Vikram.
In a funny way, he's kind of like Drax, right? He's also there for vengeance. He wants to destroy Nova because they killed his father or something like. But it's just while Drax is more directed, he's going after the people themselves. And next Thanos, Ronan's all over the place. So yeah, he's very a stereotypical villain. Yeah, I'm gonna throw myself in the goo.
Okay, so that brings us to Yondu. He's kind of a badass. I mean,
Yeah. Like you said, very charismatic. I like him. At least
one night, at least one night of drinking and browsing.
I don't know. He definitely has this hidden heart. Like he might be great husband material, but the teeth are a little off-putting. So maybe just one night.
Yeah, I forgot about the teeth. That's true.
He also kidnaps children, so I mean.
Yeah, but only because they had a bounty on their head, like not random children. He wouldn't do it on a humbug.
All right.
Liam, any thoughts on Yondu?
Well, Michael Rooker is awesome, so one night.
Yeah, I think so. Nebula. Do people remember Nebula? I felt bad for her. I felt she didn't really get much screen time.
That actor is one from Doctor Who.
She's really pretty, isn't she? Like underneath all the kind of baldness and
She is not pretty in this movie. I couldn't even recognize her at all.
Yeah, but she's.
I thought that the character was gorgeous, though. So cool with the eyes and the blue.
Yeah, she was pretty cool. I just couldn't recognize her as Karen Gillan.
Exactly. She looked so familiar. I was like, who is this actress? Who is this actress? And she's Karen Gillan. I'm a big Doctor Who fan. And so she did an awesome job. I think she's stepping out, right? She's doing a lot of movies now.
She shaved her head for this. There's that thing at Comic-Con where she threw her wig into the crowd.
I mean, it's like, there's in a movie so heavy in CGI, couldn't they have just, put a cap over her hair or something and a bunch of makeup?
Got to get method on this movie.
I just think that was not the role for which you shave your hair off, maybe. Okay, so One Night Marry Void. I don't know. One night, maybe?
I think one night.
It's interesting though, right? She's like Gamora in so many ways. Like she's also looking for a chance to betray her father Thanos. Like she made a 10-minute alliance with Ronan, right? But then when things fell out, she went back. So
I think she's kind of the Koba, huh?
Sorry, Amber.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying she's kind of the Koba, huh? Where it's like Gamora can kind of put all that behind her and move forward in a positive direction, and she just can't let go of her hatred.
And from that perspective, I find her character a lot more credible than Gamora's, even though she has a lot less screen time. It's going to be interesting to see in future films, and maybe Shane would know because he's read the comics, whether she does eventually rebel against her dad or whether she stays trapped. But I'm kind of curious to see what happens to her. Okay, and then I put in, I know like probably people won't like even register this guy, but there's like one of the Nova Corps officers who's played by John C. Reilly, who I just think is sweet.
Oh come on, everybody registered that.
No, I didn't know because he's about 50th on the cast list on IMDb. But yeah, so little.
He made that whole ending.
But he's so lovely. So marry.
Yeah, I would say.
He's a pretty nice dude. He's already married though.
With the pink lady. How is the kid not pinkish cream or something like that? How is the kid pink?
The peach maybe.
Oh, the seed is not strong.
Exactly. Quick, someone get the old tomes out and start looking at the colour of the hair.
Oh no.
Nova Prime, any Dangerous Liaisons fans out there?
There's another comic series out there, the Nova. So it's about the Corp and everything. So they do their own adventures and stuff like that.
It's a Shane question, isn't it? Really?
Is there not like a single hero?
What? Sorry?
Is there not a single Nova that's a hero?
Exactly. I think FL also sent me another few comics. It's of Nova, and it's of this one kid or something. I still haven't read it, but I think it's the Nova Corp. I think they are kind of the third tier Avengers or something. But they're
maybe
mostly
after they've done Ant-Man, maybe they'll get to Nova in like 2026 or something, whatever their current 10-year plan is.
It's on the plan. It's on there.
Exactly.
Yeah, they must be powerful, right? Because now they are
contributing to the start.
But I would marry Nova Prime because I think your wife is like head of Nova, right? Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, good political influence. Could be useful. But I also felt like she kind of contributed to the Star Trek feel I was getting from the Nova. Like the whole bit with them like defending the planet. I don't know. It just had this idealism that I liked. That was all Star Trek.
I agree. I love the concept of Nova. Tivan, Benicio del Toro.
Those eyebrows. Gotta be careful.
I might actually have to go yellow goo just on the basis of those eyebrows.
Yeah, I would be a little scared. I would say one night, but I'd be a little worried I would wake up in a box the next morning, like in a glass hanging collection box.
Yeah, he's clearly not a very nice guy. I mean, enslaving people.
What was the assistant trying to do? Was she thinking that she could harness the power or something, or she just wanted to die or something? That was kind of dark, right?
Right.
She just wants to die.
Oh, that must be Christian Nolan. He just stepped in a bit and said, "Oh, let me just add the suicide here and walk away."
Darken it up a little.
That's a bit harsh. Liam, any thoughts on Tivan, Benicio del Toro?
I jump in the goo. He's immortal.
Yeah. This is
bored.
Yeah, good point. Well made. Finally, I only put Thanos on because he was played by Josh Brolin. Not so you noticed, but Josh Brolin is hot. So
Thanos is not.
Yeah, but it's kind of like.
But he's a Titan.
And he's like super powerful.
That terrifies me, though. I also think he's kind of boring.
To be like first lady of the entire galaxy, it's got to have perks. You could be like the Carmela Soprano of space.
No, I think he expects you to go through some modification and things like that because Gamora is altered. Nebula has some weird robotic thing going on with her. So
yeah, so then I get superpowers. I'm like Carmela Soprano with superpowers. I don't know. That makes me scarily happy. It pretty speaks to my megalomania that's just hidden beneath this. But anyway, I would take Thanos or Josh Brolin. Anyone else going for Thanos, or you're yellow gooing?
Goo.
Yellow goo,
I have to go.
That's incredibly short-sighted of y'all. I really do.
He's in love with the death.
Stick with Nova Prime.
Pardon?
I said he's in love with death. In the comic books, he's trying to woo death.
That's concerning.
Yeah.
He's killing everyone just to impress her.
Yeah. But as long as he doesn't kill you.
Doesn't matter. All my family's dead.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. Okay, well maybe, maybe not with Thanos, but yes with the Josh Brolin. Which I believe brings us to the end of this Guardians of the Galaxy podcast. So, unless anyone has any other...
I have one thing.
Yes, please go ahead, Liam.
There's a thing that could happen. In the comic books, Hulk gets sent in space. And I think that could happen in Avengers 2 at the end. He gets sent up to space, and he meets up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And in third movie, they all come down and they fight Thanos with the Avengers.
Yeah, I think
they have to do something, right? They have to put them together somehow.
That would definitely work.
They could do the...
Thor's in space all the time, right? Like, where is Asgard relative to Nova? Like, on a map. Like, if you were playing the 80 Days app, which Maudine and I are playing, like, how many days would it take you to get to from Nova to Asgard?
8.
And I don't know.
The back of a postcard, please. Indeed. No, I think Liam, that could totally be how they do it.
And there's the Planet Hulk storyline I saw in the bookstore. Hulk just attacks Earth.
Why?
because he thinks they've screwed him over because he gets sent in space and he busts out. I was flicking through it, and then he just goes on a war path on Earth. He becomes a king of another planet and just attacks Earth.
I want this to happen now.
Sorry.
Just look at him on the internet. Planet Hulk or World War Hulk. Don't know what it's called.
World War Hulk. Okay, well, with that, I think that brings us to the end of our Guardians of the Galaxy Battles of Kingsgrave podcast. So I would like to thank Shane, a.k.a. EastTexasDirewolf, a.k.a. Groot, who had to leave early. Also, I'd like to thank Vic.
We are Groot.
Zach.
We are Groot.
Liam.
We are Groot.
Amber.
We are Groot.
And I am Vina007 signing off. And you can find us at vokpodcast.wordpress.com. We are on Twitter at, what are we at Twitter at, Vikram?
Oh, VOK Podcast, pretty much everything. Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook.
We have
that's
Tumblr?
about it.
Wait.
Yeah, we have Tumblr, yeah.
Jesus, I should know that I'm a curator, right? I mean, that's so what's on our Tumblr?
Oh, exactly. Whatever WordPress post we post, it's mirrored exactly on Tumblr, so yeah.
Okay, but it's not like we're doing cool other shit on Tumblr.
Oh, no, yeah, we're doing all sorts of cool stuff on it. No,
If
not
you
really.
are involved in Battles of Kingsgrave and would like to, take responsibility for Tumblr and do cool shit because you're probably a bit younger than us and know what Tumblr is for, then feel free to get in touch. And Tumblr is your oyster. Thanks for podcasting, everyone. And yeah, it was great podcasting with you all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
I am Groot.
I am here.
Awesome. Are you recording?
I am.
Excellent, because I am definitely not. Because that's just how the kind of fly by the seat of our pants gonzo way in which VOK operates, I guess.
We have 12% of a plan.
I am Groot.
Okay, so we're gonna get Ant-Man next year, and then Avengers: Age of Ultron, and then we're gonna get Fantastic Four. No, there's gonna be a Captain America movie in 2016. Then Avengers again in 2017. Oh, there's gonna be a Deadpool
So the basic
movie.
way as a Hollywood actor is to get a role in a Marvel film because you just know you're going to be employed until you retire. I mean, that's the pay dirt right there.
Oh, you wanna be in the Spider-Man movies because that's never gonna die.
Yeah, but they just reboot them the speed with which they reboot with a new actor is scary, and it's Spider-Man. And there's no longevity there.
I am Groot.
I haven't watched Parks and Rec either, although I really want to now.
Oh, it's
But
really good,
just
yeah. At least the earlier
it seems
seasons,
like the kind of
yeah.
thing I would like.
Well, he was in that Green Beret movie, like Lone Survivor, Soul Survivor.
Oh,
I'm not
it's-
sure which one was first. He might have got left for that.
Oh, I
one.
thought he was in Zero Dark 30 or something.
Or was it that it? Maybe that was it.
Really?
Something serious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
some
Zero
serious-
Dark 30, yeah, he wasn't there.
Okay.
Oh, he was in
I don't
Her
remember
also. Oh, that's another movie in 2014. No, that's 2013.
Oh yeah, he's the guy with the weird tie or whatever in Her. Remember that?
Yeah, it was totally fine, right? When the guy goes, "Oh, my girlfriend's a computer," he's like, "Oh yeah, you should bring her around or something."
Actually, I'm on IMDb Pro right now, and not only is he starring in the Jurassic World movie next year, he's also rumored to be doing the lead in the Knight Rider reboot. So,
Oh my goodness.
he's just and he was.
I didn't know they were doing that.
Is the new
right?
Is the new Knight Rider going to be hybrid or an electric car or something?
A little smart car.
Being written by Brad Copeland, never heard of him. Starring Danny McBride and Chris Pratt. So presumably Danny McBride is the voice of Pitt.
That's really
Unless
awesome.
Danny McBride's going to lose 100 pounds and get buff and become the next new action hero. Which would kind of make me happy. Based on the 1982 series of the same name, a lone crime fighter battles the forces of evil with the help of his indestructible and artificially intelligent car. It wasn't really evil that Michael Knight was battling, was it, though, back in the day? Let's be honest. Let's scale it down a little bit.
Yeah, he's pretty much petty thugs. People trying to shake down convenience stores and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty small beans. But anyway, that makes me happy.
I am Groot.
As we get into more of this generic Marvel stuff, I want to ask, can someone please sell me on Ant-Man? Because I just don't get that at all right now. I know it's George R. Martin's favorite character, so I have to understand.
No.
I don't.
There's a cartoon on Netflix. It's called it's the Avengers cartoon, and it's got the expanded Avengers cast in it. It's not just Hulk and Thor and Iron Man. It's even got the Black Panther in it, and Wasp and Ant-Man are in it. And check that out. So Ant-Man's supposed to be this genius scientist kind of character. Well, he's not. Well, he doesn't really stand out from the crew, but he's okay, I guess. It's going to be a big chore to do a movie just on him.
So what is Ant-Man? Is he an ant that's a man?
He's just a guy that's away from strength, basically. And he uses he's got a helmet that he uses to communicate / control ants and bugs. I think they're definitely going to have to they're definitely going to do something similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's going to have to be really funny, which I think that's why they hired Paul Rudd.
I mean, don't you just all pour a can of ant powder and then Ant-Man is over?
Yeah.
Go on the ant army. Here's my bug spray.
No, he expands also. He can grow into a giant also. So there's going to be a Godzilla action also in it.
Well, I wouldn't
giant Paul Rudd.
I'm curious if they're actually going to
see the movie just for that now.
Who's Ant-Man? Who's in it?
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd?
They've got Michael Douglas is playing the original character of Ant-Man. So they got some good actors in it. Because the original Ant-Man is Hank Pym, and then they've had a couple of different characters that have taken over the Ant-Man identity. And in the movie, they're going to have Michael Douglas, is obviously pretty old, playing Hank Pym. And they haven't, we don't know if he's going to have been an Ant-Man previously or just a scientist, because Henry Pym's a scientist primarily before he became a superhero. And then Paul Rudd is going to play.
Why is Ant-Man hyphenated?
I guess because it's mine.
That's a serious question. Spider-Man isn't hyphenated. Superman isn't hyphenated. Iron Man is two separate words. I mean, you don't need a hyphen. It's stronger. It's more superhero-like not to have a hyphen.
But with Marvel money, right, they got billions of bucks. They can afford an hyphen. While DC is kind of down on its luck.
Maybe they couldn't afford to buy the antmannohyphen.com website.
Yeah.
I already have beef. Directed by Peyton Reed, who did The Breakup, which is rubbish. Yes Man, which was rubbish. Junebug, which was... No, he didn't do that. What else did he do? Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. Wow, I'm so...
Kind of got a familiar plot beats to it, though. I mean...
if you look at the back catalogue of Peyton Reed, I wouldn't be... Yeah. But,
Isn't there a term in the movie industry for directors who are shooters, basically? They just come in and shoot the shots for the studio. Seems like maybe that's what he might be doing.
The only cool... Who's Yellow Jacket? Is he like the evil guy in Ant-Man?
Well, it's complicated. Ant-Man has had like 3 or 4 different superhero identities. One of them was Yellow Jacket. When he was Yellow Jacket, actually, he sort of went off the deep end. And there's a storyline where he actually started beating his wife, who's the Wasp in the comics, and she left him.
Oh, is that Hope?
Yeah, the whole Hope, what I read was Hope is going to be the daughter of Ant-Man and Janet Van Damme, who's wife.
Okay. Because Hope's played by Evangeline Lilly, but there's a Yellow Jacket character played by Corey Stoll, who was the kind of drug-taking politician in House of Cards, who was awesome, like a really good actor. So maybe I'll watch it.
Exactly, I was going to say Corey Stoll, House of Cards. And he's also in this new show, The Strain. He's a lead there, and he's doing a pretty good job, so he's a good find.
Okay, well, that sounds exciting.
All right, everybody, I got to get out of here. So
are you leaving because I was insulting about Ant-Man? I don't mean to.
No, actually, I have to get out of here.
I am Groot.
I don't know, the Hulk, I mean, they tried to do Hulk movies like 3 times now, or 2 times now at least, and they're all fell flat. I think just Hulk's just not a...
Hulk's a basically 2-dimensional character. He gets angry, he's uncontrollable, there's no nuance there. So basically you have to watch a guy struggling to remain very, very boring, because that's how he doesn't tear shit up. So you can't have a love interest or a sex life. You can't actually do cool shit like beat people up. The whole point, the coolest thing Hulk does is Hulk smash, and the whole point of the Hulk is that he's got to struggle not to Hulk smash. I mean, it's like a screenwriting black hole, isn't it? So.
Weren't there some versions? Because I know there are so many. There's Red Hulk and Gray Hulk, and aren't there some where he's like really smart? Like he's got the brains of Bruce Banner, but he can control his Hulkness?
That's what I think they're going for here, because he seems to at least have control over himself in the Avengers.
Oh, I found Planet Hulk, the animated feature on Netflix. Is that the one you're talking about, Liam?
It could be. I just saw that in the bookstore, and
oh, okay.
I've heard about it.
Cool.
That could be it.
So that might be on my Netflix to watch list.
I am Groot.
What's next on the list of podcasting?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think, I'm away for a couple of weeks, and then I think that the weekend I'm back, I'm doing, what am I doing?
The FCR for Princess Bride?
Oh, yes, on the 23rd, I think.
And then there's also, I'm doing one with Amanda. Maybe it's Brideshead Revisited or something, where it's just the two of us, Middle Cyclone, so if anyone wants to join.
Gormenghast?
Might be Gormenghast. I know there's a few bubbling under. I mean, I'm rewatching Sopranos at the moment, so there is a Sopranos one coming out at some point.
I'm doing
settled on the book club.
I'm doing the... I'm sorry, Amber?
Oh, I was saying I think we're just about ready to start voting for the book club.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy that podcast. I mean, I love those. I hope you guys continue. And it did really inspire me to read that. So they're really.
Did you read it, or have you?
Not yet. It's on my to-read list. I'm currently trying to read really quickly the Diana Gabaldon Outlander series before I watch it on TV. So my quest to stay one jump ahead of TV spoilers.
Yeah, I'm trying to put together.
Make the experience not fun because you're constantly comparing it to the book. Yeah, I love doing that.
Yeah.
That's our thing.
Yeah. So there's lots coming up, and Liam, if you wanna start one off, then please do so.
Yeah, I'm gonna do one on Halt and Catch Fire whenever we get the dates down, and then another one on Leftovers soon. I think Leftovers ends on 31st August, so I better put a call to arms then. So those are the two for me.
I am Groot.
Oh, no, I just have one completely unrelated request. I am completely fascinated by the idea of a Maasai warrior standing guard over your tent at night. So I really want a picture of that.
I am Groot.
Okay, posse out.
Okay, bye.
Bye, guys.
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 Bye.